Okay. Welcome to Face It with Dr. G. I'm Dr. G, and I have the amazing pleasure of having a wonderful friend and colleague that I have gotten to know more and more, and we're going to dive in to all the things today. Libby Dysart. She
Mm-hmm.
is the founder of Resculpt in Georgetown near
Mm-hmm.
Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And we are so excited to hear your story. You're unique. We love that. You don't have a degree in nursing, you're not a doctor, you're not an esthetician, but you've started this company. And welcome. We can't wait to
Yes.
have you and talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so a lot of people do get that confused because they think that I have some sort of, medical credentials. So I try to be upfront and honest with people, especially on social media. But what's so interesting is in terms of creating a patient like loyalty of just people knowing who I am and a face behind the brand and a face behind the name, including obviously Erica's huge brand and presence, but also having my like more niche little thing. It's like just creating a community and like anyone can really do that. I have no like medical conversations with the patients at all. It's all like my life and their life, and we're just friends, and bringing people in and having that community is so cool to have, even as just as just someone who does the marketing and business side of things. But that's what's so important with social media and being online these days, is cultivating that relationship with your patients that goes above and beyond what they've had their previous experience, their other practices that they've maybe been to, and really making it a community. So getting my physical community onto a virtual level and vice versa, so being able to have that is awesome.
Yeah. And you say just the
I
marketing
know.
side of things, but that is a huge deal. And playing devil's advocate, being from the
Hmm.
medical side as a physician, we get no training on any of that. And so you
Hmm.
have to have that creative energy and think outside of the box to create a brand. And
Yeah.
people have a hard time with it. So it's,
Yeah.
it's 50-50, or even I would say the marketing side is even more so.
Yeah. Right. So the marketing side is fun and it can be intense and it's a lot of work, but obviously so is, seeing patients, and um, we definitely work with each other, obviously Erica and I and the providers at my clinic too. We're always trying to like work in conjunction to make it easy as possible for them to see patients safely, efficiently, and all of that, and also us work together on the marketing and branding and everything and kind of keep that flowing too.
Yeah.
But I will say that I've worked in aesthetics since I was right out of college. So I was 22, and I met Erica working at our first medical spa, actually in Georgetown. So we've come a little full circle with that. And we just had a kind of, when you're working in, there's a lot of practices that don't cultivate maybe the best environment for their providers and for their employees. So that's, maybe we had a little bit of trauma bonding too. But we met there, got really close there, started working on her brand and her Instagram, and cultivating her Patreon, her virtual learning platform from there too. And then it kind of over the years just naturally grew into me just running her brand. When we were working at that practice initially back in 2018, I ran kind of like the med spa, so I got a little bit of the practice managerial aspect of it and kind of how to run a med spa, and so that was just something that I knew right from kind of, I was still in my age of learning everything too, so it just became a language of knowing booking software and knowing how to interact with patients and clients and everyone. So from there we just started growing in different aspects, and then we kind of brought everything together and opened Resculpt. So it's been really fun.
Awesome. So I have so many questions. Going back to what you said about social media, and
Yeah.
we touched on it, we can dive into it more. How have you learned to encourage your patients to share, be okay sharing on social media? Because you do that a lot and people seem to be okay with it. What's your strategy?
Yeah, that's a big question. I get that question a lot, and we talk about kind of how to have that conversation with the patients and where they find it most comfortable. I always feel that having the provider ask is the best method, because sometimes I'll pop in as, and maybe that patient doesn't know me, and I'm like, hey, can I take some content? And they're much more like inclined to say no to someone that they maybe don't feel comfortable with versus someone that they've already established a, you know, patient relationship with this provider. But so I always like to have the provider ask directly, and kind of also flip it to be more educational as well if you feel like it's something that they would be a little more uncomfortable with. But people are always like, should I offer a discount, whatever? I'm like, no, I don't want patients to be relying on, share my social media, share me on social media, and then I can get a discount. And two, I don't want them to feel that pressure or anything. So I'll always bring it up, or have the girls bring it up and just say, hey, we're really excited to do this treatment for you. We think you're going to get amazing results. Is it okay if we take some content for social media? Or sometimes too, it's like to educate the other patients that might be interested in these services. And from there, usually, hopefully, a patient would be comfortable with that, or see it from the point of view of trying to educate and help others know more about these types of treatments and what's available. But if they show any sort of like hesitancy or weirdness about it, I'm like, you know what, don't even
worry about it.
Yeah, because then it's just like a hassle for everyone, and they might come back later and be like, can we take it down? And
well, yeah, and the last thing you want when someone's coming to your practice to get treated and to feel beautiful and confident and all that is to stress about being on social media. I mean, that's the last thing you want.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I'll say, listen, we love to educate, and you found us on social media, so we love to give back, but there's no pressure at all. Maybe next time you'll feel more comfortable and confident to be on there.
Yeah.
But do you find that people consent for Instagram differently than Patreon? And do you find people are okay being on Patreon more easily?
Patreon for sure, yes. Yeah. So we have different consents for both. Like one will be for I have like 10 different social media consents. One is just for social media specifically. One is for, actually, the social media one includes Patreon, because people who are okay with social media, obviously, for the most part, will be okay with Patreon learning platform and all that. But then I have one separately just for Patreon for people who are not okay with social media. But you also have to make sure in their file too, like we use aesthetic records, so anything on aesthetic record, we have like a little note under each patient's file, just making sure that, they're okay with all social media, they're okay only on educational forums and all of that. So, but I will say that people are definitely much more inclined to be on just the virtual platform, learning platform, rather than social media. But also, so many patients are getting multi-modality treatments these days, right? So we're doing lasers, we're doing microneedling, filler, biostimulators, all this, everything. And so some people will just be really like, oh, I don't want to be mentioned on your social media for neurotoxin or for filler, but I'll be okay with I was just talking to a patient about this the other day, for our device that's similar to IPL, we have what's called ADVA. It's a device that just helps with hyperpigmentation and redness. And I was talking to a patient, I was like, is it okay if we post your before and afters because your skin looks so amazing? And she was like, well, I don't want you to mention that we've done neurotoxin and all the other things. And I was like, well, for this post specifically, I would say, the skin quality is what we're looking at, and the before and after is just going to focus on that device. So we're not going to mention the other treatments. But then it gets into a little bit of, you don't want to be unethical with what you're sharing and like misleading. But I will say I'll just show kind of the improvement and highlight the improvement in the skin quality, and just show like maybe the cheek and the side profile, just to again point out that skin quality improvement, and not necessarily have to jump into injectables, because unfortunately a lot of people are still a little uncomfortable with that or feel like it's a little taboo. But when it comes to the skin treatments, they're much more open to being on social media for those reasons. So I'll always kind of talk to them about what treatments they're comfortable with me talking about too, because I don't want to go in blindly of, sharing everything they've had, because that also comes into play where if someone from their family sees it and calculates the cost, and then we've had people being like, well, I don't want people to know how much I've spent, and like all these things. So it is an interesting conversation that we're having with patients. But 9 times out of 10, our patients find us on social media, so generally they're comfortable with being shared across our social platforms too,
which is good to know. I was just going to ask you something, and it slipped my mind. So have you ever had, because I know you guys do a lot of posting of celebrities and before and afters, and that's created a ton of engagement for you,
right?
How has that gone is my first question. But my second question is, have you had issues with copyright infringement from photographers that have said, I took this photo of this celebrity, you now owe me X dollars?
Yeah, I'm honestly shocked. I've known Jess Mangas, Injector Jess down in Florida. I think she's been reached out to a few times for those reasons, and Eric and I have talked to her about it, and it does scare us a little bit. But I haven't, and I don't necessarily know how to move around that kind of conversation. I don't know how to make sure that the photos I guess you can technically look up like licensable photos on Instagram or social media, Google, and you can also, I think, sorry, my brain. I think you
You
can
can buy the
rights
rights
to
to
a
it.
photo too. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I recommended to Jess. I'm like, maybe if you, what is the one? I think it's Getty Images that does a
Hmm.
lot of like the celebrity images, and if you really want to use something that, you know, you don't want any kind of issue at all, then you could do that. But I haven't had, so I've never had photographers reach out to us, but I have had celebrities reach out to us and basically ask us to take down posts potentially where we're commenting on things that they might have done. And over the last few years, my school of thought, or my what I feel is ethical to be posting about celebrities has changed a lot. So I used to be much more of like, they're in the public eye. It's okay to comment on, maybe what they've had done and all that. And we still do some of that, but I'm just always making sure to, one, clarify that obviously we have no idea what these people have had done. Two, these are human beings, and I don't want anyone to feel like they will see these posts too and like potentially be affected by it. And also from just like a patient standpoint too, like I'm always thinking about how patients would perceive what
Hmm.
we are
Hmm.
posting now as a practice, as a co-owner, and as someone who interfaces with patients all the time now. Whereas before I was always, kind of not always, but for the past few years before opening Resculpt, I was more on just like the back end doing marketing, branding, and growth for the company. So I was never really thinking about per se how a patient might feel. But if we're using such like intense and harsh language and kind of accusatory language towards celebrities, I think that for the most part, patients don't love the way that looks, and it does get good engagement and does provide growth. And I think there's a place for content that includes celebrities for sure still, but it's definitely something that I'm always wary of, and I want to just like frame in the most positive way possible and
Yeah.
move away from guessing what they've had done and more so like talking about the procedures that they've been honest about and just praising them for their openness about it, and then also talking a little bit about just like how amazing and how much access we have to all these different treatments these days to help us feel and look our best, especially as we age. So, but in terms of celebrities messaging us, this was years ago and we haven't recently, but they have asked us to take it down if they've gotten defensive of things that we've said. And so that also too played a role in my kind of changing of my tune when it comes to that kind of content for sure. So,
Yeah. And I think you
luckily
live and
haven't
you
been hit with a
learn.
lawsuit though or anything like that before.
Yeah, which is great,
Yeah.
knock on wood. And I
Yeah.
think we just got hit with
Oof.
someone saying, that we were using a stock image on the website. I'm like, well, we didn't put it on the website. The company we use for our management put it on there. So this
Yeah.
isn't even our issue.
Yeah.
But when I opened GFace MD 8 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. And this just shows you learn from your mistakes and you grow from what
Yeah.
you've done and you change. But
Yeah.
I posted, it was like the Red Sox won the World Series or something so stupid. And I posted a photo of the Prudential Center with it all lit up.
Yeah.
And they came after me. And I was like, is this a joke?
Yeah.
So I learned quickly.
Wow. So you've probably gotten, yeah, you know what? Actually, I was just looking at I was doing a little reconnaissance work. I was looking at your Instagram, and watching some of your past interviews and just like looking at your content. And I think that you have a business Instagram, your Instagram is categorized as business, not
Yeah.
as creator, because I noticed all your music was the like licensable, like you don't
Yes.
use really like trending sounds and stuff like that. So I was wondering if you had um, maybe just or also I think sometimes if you sell products on across your social media or Instagram or whatever it might be, you might have to have a Instagram that's classified as a business. But I was wondering too
And
if you
we
had any.
don't we don't sell anything
Huh.
on GFace MD, and now I'm forgetting why, but I went back and forth between creator and business, and there was something about the music definitely is worse with business. You don't have as many options,
Hmm.
but there was something about creator that wasn't great either. So are you a creator?
Yeah, even Resculpt's Instagram, I have as a creator account. There is something when it comes to having like a shop on Instagram, or there's so many more advanced things. Honestly, I'm not that advanced. I'm more of
Yeah.
like the branding and just coming up with creative types of things, whereas like there's all these different tools and different um, kind of vibes that these some clinics, I'm like, oh my god, their pages are so beautiful and ours is like so messy. But it's for us always about the engagement and
Hmm.
the content that we're creating in order to grow our practice and our injectors and all of that. So
Well, I
but
think that it shifted because that's exactly why I never used a company. I mean, I'm a creative person anyway, and that's how I started it. Now I do some, and everybody else kind of adds to it.
Mhm.
But I didn't want it to be so beautiful. I wanted to have themes where it looks
Yeah,
like it flows, but not be so cookie cutter perfect because
right,
people don't sit there and just look at your thing and like,
right.
this looks so beautiful.
Yeah,
Do they actually care about what is on it, right?
yeah.
Um,
I get a lot of questions about that too, like how if it matters to be like aesthetically pleasing, and I'm like, there has to be a rhyme and rhythm of how you're posting. Like, I don't love to have a lot of words, a lot of messiness all the time, but
mhm,
because I do think in my mind, if I'm going to get my hair done or potentially like get my nails done or even go to a medical spa or aesthetics practice, I'm going to look at their page, obviously probably hopefully find their content and then look at their page. And if it's totally a mess and looks like old school branding and all of this, I'm going to be like, well, I don't know if that is, maybe that's just how they run their business, and like maybe I won't feel as confident in going there, which is interesting how I'm
mhm.
always trying to toggle between being a consumer and then actually doing the marketing and branding. But so that's what I think of it as, like, keep a good middle ground. You want it to look, I'm always suggesting, having the same font, having the same coloring, having your logo on as many posts as possible, or at least your handle and all of that, just to keep
Hmm.
consistency across the across your page. But and then especially for a business Instagram, it should be a little bit more consistent. Whereas for a provider's Instagram, it can be, or an individual's Instagram like mine, it can be obviously not as consistent with the coloring and all of that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
so
that's how it's interesting because I started G-Face with just me, and so the brand was me, and so I had my logo
yeah,
all over, and I was like superimposing photos of myself like on the logo in the photo,
yeah.
like jumping around,
I
and
always
people
tell
like,
people to do that too. Yeah, I'm like, if it's just you, but you want to make it more personal, but also have your logo, if it's kind of like both your own business and your personal page at the same time, I'm like, have it be a picture of yourself and like your logo somewhere on the photo too, like to
yeah.
to kind of combine those two things because that's super important. But
Yeah, it's an association, right?
yeah,
But then when I realized, okay, I want to dissociate from being known as G-Face, and I want the
hmm,
brand to be the brand with the other incredible people and not
yeah,
me.
yeah,
That was a transition, right? And so then
yeah,
it's, meet the team, and then I'm over here on my personal Instagram, kind of
yeah.
posting my more personal stuff because I actually got a lot of comments about why do you post your family on your Instagram?
Huh.
And I'm just like, they're like, aren't you worried? Like, why do you want them to be public or whatever? And I know Erica's very public with her son, and I didn't have an issue with it. But more recently, I'm like, maybe there's a thing there. I don't know how you feel about that. I know you don't have kids yet, but
Yeah, but I just have dogs and I'm like posting
dogs.
all the time. But what's funny is everyone, I'm like, whatever you feel comfortable with. Because if you
Hmm.
don't feel comfortable with sharing a certain part of your life, it's going to come across weird to your followers. I wouldn't care what people think if they're going to question why you want to share a certain aspect. I think a lot of people do comment on that stuff now too. Like, other providers will be like, I would never share this, that, and the third. I would never do this. And I'm like,
Okay, fine.
everyone is their own
That's your
person.
own life.
Same
Yeah.
thing for practicing medicine. Like, people have different comfortabilities with doing different things or trying different things. And as long as you guys, I'm always just like the supportive non-medical person. I'm like trying to help provide like support in whatever means. Like, same thing when it comes to my providers being on social media, or when it comes to certain treatments that if someone isn't confident or comfortable with doing a certain treatment, obviously either they don't have to do it at all and we will have someone else do it, or we can all come back to the drawing board and be like, hey, if one provider has felt like this is maybe not something that is the best, or they feel uncomfortable with it, let's talk about it and let's figure out kind of how to go from there. But I'm like, just because one provider likes to do something a certain way in our practice doesn't mean all of you guys need to do the same thing. And
Totally.
And same thing with social media. So I'm like, if you don't feel comfortable, some of our girls, I'm always suggesting and kind of encouraging them to share as much as they can because I do feel like that gives that interpersonal connection with the patient provider relationship, and that forms more loyalty and gets more patients in the door and patients feeling comfortable with us. And but whatever they feel comfortable with sharing is the most important, because once it becomes uncomfortable or inauthentic, the content is just poopy. So
I totally agree.
but let me bring it back to, so I'm good at going on tangents. Let me bring it back to, I would suggest and try switching to a creator account. There is no downside
Okay.
in toggling too. So sometimes I'm like, maybe a business account will work better for what your specific company is trying to achieve across social media. But if you can use a creator account, there's one thing. So business does have more insights that
Oh, I know what it is. I just Googled it. It's advertising. So can you not boost posts as a creator?
you can still boost posts, but
Oh,
there might be when it comes to paid advertising, there might be a few more assets that come along with having a business account. I'm not entirely sure, but as a creator, you can boost posts. I boost them all the time. The only thing is that it will say, and maybe this is a newer feature, and that's why people had the business accounts before, but it will say we can't boost this post with the music that you've put behind it, so they're just boosting it with no music, and I'm like, that's fine. I don't need music at all. Like,
yeah.
but I'll always put like a trending sound behind anything I am posting, and I'm a big fan of boosting these days because I started to realize, I was like, it's not even that it's boosting and reaching new people, it's that there's so much oversaturation on social media. Our patients follow so many different accounts. There's really, like, I think a 3 and like a 30% chance that someone is going to see what you're actually posting. So it increases the likelihood of our pre-existing followers, and thus most likely our patients, to seeing our different promo days, our talks days, our new treatments, whatever it might be that I want to boost and make sure I'm getting the word out there. It increases the likelihood of them seeing that tenfold. So I'm like, I'm not necessarily doing it to reach new people. I'm doing it to make sure that we're reaching our
The
actual
people
followers.
that saw it and scanned by it, scrolled by it, they're going to see it
Exactly.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
That
idea.
or they just totally missed it. And one of our patients came in and was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm so glad you guys like boosted this post because I almost missed it and I really needed talks, but like I've been budgeting or whatever." And she was able to get in on our talks day. And it was, so when she said that to me a few months ago, I was like, "Oh my God, our boosted posts are reaching our pre-existing
Yeah.
audience more so than like new people." Of course, I want to reach some new people that are in the area, but really, I do want to make sure that what we're trying to get out there is reaching the people that we already have relationships with. So it's easier for
Totally.
them
It's so
to
much
see.
easier to retain than create new.
Yeah.
But, it is a blend. And I think for what you're saying for promos and giveaways and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
it's genius. That's an absolute must.
Hmm.
But it is amazing how many posts I'll boost that are just kind of get to know the brand or whatever. And
Yeah.
then the people that come up to me, it's like, you just showed up on my Instagram. And, that
Yeah.
always makes me so happy because I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
like,
that was
thank
that one.
God my ROI is strong on this one. But
Yeah.
I know I need to do just more brand like awareness. That's always good too. Like if you're doing a reintroduction, I was looking at your Instagram too. I love how I'm like auditing your Instagram.
You
I
did
love
your research.
how
I love it.
I know. I love how you guys like introduce or just kind of highlight different team members because I think that that's so important to do too, right? Because and your pre-existing followers, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I know her, I interact with her,
Mhm.
like she's the best, might comment on it or whatever, and just get to know and feel comfortable with people in your practice. And
Yeah.
that goes back to another way that we make our patients feel comfortable with potentially being on social media is they know that like when they message our social media, it's like me responding and they are familiar with my face and they follow me as well. So when I come in, I'm like, hey, like
Yeah.
for the most part, our patients are our friends to a certain extent at this point. So most of them are very comfortable with it and are honestly like, oh my gosh, like if we don't ask them if we can post, they're like,
Offended.
yeah, they're like, what the
Am
heck?
I not good enough
Yeah.
today?
Or yeah, one of our patients will come in and be like, Libby, will you take my actors? And sometimes I'll just be running around. I like won't have time, and she'll get like sad about it. I'm like, message her
Oh,
and be like, no, send us your afters, please, because I want to use them. But it's just like gets a little bit crazy day to day. You know how it goes, to, like
yeah.
get that content. But I will say for one of our newer injectors, Amelia, she is killing it with remembering to take content, and she'll always come, and I'll be like in the middle of like doing all these emails and whatever else, like a rep coming in, whatever else is going on, and she's like, Libby, do you think you can take some content for me? And I'm like, yes, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
This is the most important. I'll put down everything else and we'll get some good content for you, because especially as our newer injectors are growing and trying to build their clientele and their patient base, and it's so important for them. I'm always like, and our clinic obviously too, but I just
Yeah.
always want to make sure that they have content that they can use. And
So for
yeah.
that, I have a question because I have transitioned. I initially started with injectors and they were responsible for their own content.
Hmm.
Now we have so many that we have created a whole program for social media. We have an in-house videographer and photographer who creates content, puts it into a drive every week,
Hmm.
and she does it for them. So it's almost like now you don't have a choice. And
Hmm.
for people that feel too scared to post or they have imposter syndrome or whatever, they're not confident. It's like, let
Yeah.
me help you. I'm going to do this. We even have like a TikTok team and a LinkedIn team. We have all
Wow.
these different divisions of it. Do you think that's something that you would use, or do you think it's better if the provider takes their own content? And there's a little bit of a blend, but we
Yeah.
found it to work well.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Obviously, you have been open for 8 years. We've been open for like a year and
You're killing
half.
it.
Yeah.
You're killing
So
it.
I definitely am taking on too many roles right now in terms of doing all the business side of things, plus trying to do all the
I like
filming,
that.
social media, marketing, everything like that. So I
Yeah.
need to give some things up. I would love
Hmm.
to just do more of the marketing side and like actually have one or two people work that I work with that can help me kind of just focus on that all the time, and then have more of me just
You
like
need to find
venting
a
to
little
you about what I
prodigy.
need. Yeah.
You're gonna find a little prodigy, and they're gonna
Yes.
come in one day,
Yeah.
and you're gonna be like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go.
Once we get into a little bit more growth, I think, like I don't want to say busier because we already are very busy, but with like our two newer injectors, once they're fully booked and going strong, it's there's going to be a lot going on. So
Yeah.
it started off with one of my best friends, Christina. She's our lead injector. She came with me. We opened up Resculpt, and I told her about it. And obviously, I was like, I want you to be the lead injector, and just like, and we gave her like, not gave her patients, but like her book was basically the only book that was open besides Erica's. So it was just so many people on her book, and now I'm like struggling to get people in, and that's an amazing feeling to have. But you start noticing that with the growth comes, I need to bring on like hire more
Right.
people like on the back end, which
Right.
is always scary to do because I always want to make sure that everyone has like a good role and that no one feels like their feet are getting stepped on. And I would rather have, in some aspects, less employees until they're all at capacity, and then go from there with hiring more. But long story short, yes, I would love to
It's
have
hard to
someone
know.
to do that, and I think that that's a great idea and a great something that is super unique if you are looking to bring on more injectors too, to have that as like we also create your content for you. Like that is a huge perk. That
Yeah.
takes up the 5 to 9 after the 9 to 5 is basically editing the content, getting it ready
Yes.
to be posted, interacting, engaging with people on social media. It takes up so much time, and our injectors start to realize that. And so if I had something that I could offer that would help alleviate some of that for them, I think that would be amazing for them, and also for them to maybe open their book more, and also to offer newer injectors coming in too. So
Yeah, I think what's hard because if you're not familiar with the space and you're just like, I'm getting into aesthetics because I can make a lot of money, it's like, okay, no, you got to
yeah,
work really, really, really hard before that starts to happen.
huge learning curve. Yeah.
And social media is a huge part of it. But if they're paralyzed, like, oh, I don't know enough, it's all the imposter syndrome. I don't want to show
Yeah.
my face, whatever it is. We've actually kind of integrated their growth and their bonus structure to include social media as well.
Oh.
So they get paid. We treat our people really, really, really well, but they
Yeah.
get even extra if they're willing and able to go above and beyond on social media.
Yeah.
And now we're like, all you have to do is post it because he already
Press the
created
button.
it for you.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
Um,
That's it.
so, and then once they get familiar with it and feel comfortable and have their
Mhm.
following or whatever, then they start,
Mhm.
they create the organic
Yeah.
content too, which
And
is good.
also once they start getting that positive reinforcement from patients or
Yeah.
actually seeing that ROI themselves, like it is a huge just it's a huge help too to actually get that positive feedback.
Yeah.
But
Do you use Facebook at all? Because the buzz in my ear was always Facebook's much cheaper for advertising, blah blah blah. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to use it, and I've tried to get companies to help me with it, and it's just
yeah.
so annoying.
Yeah. So it depends on your patient population and where you are in the country. So some of the accounts, so I also do some mentorship on I have my own Patreon as well, and I do a little bit of mentorship for people looking to just kind of understand Instagram and social media and all of that a little bit better and have like a sounding board and just someone to kind of help them guide them a little bit. So one of my instructors I was working with, she was like, "Yeah, I'm mainly on Facebook," and I'm like, "Oh,
Oh
I
boy.
don't know how to help you much with that because we cross post everything. So you know how you can connect your Facebook
Yes,
page
we
with
do
your
that
Instagram
too.
and yeah, post everything on there. But when
Mhm.
it comes to actually being on Facebook and interacting, engaging with that kind of community, we're much more like TikTok, Instagram focused than we are Facebook, Instagram focused, and um, so I will say that if you have an older patient population and you're in a more like rural part of the country, I would say probably Facebook would be something that you need to maybe have someone work a little bit extra on or something like that. But I
The
do
one
think
thing I've found is the groups. So like there's a lot of just medical spa related groups.
yes,
Where can I
yeah,
get trained here? Or even like local mom groups. Where can I
yep,
get Botox? Where can I get whatever? And so I
yeah,
found that to be beneficial.
yeah, and we have that's interesting you say that, and I should look more into that.
Yeah.
But our injector, Christina, who's our lead injector, she's on Facebook a good amount still. And I'm like, I never even go on my personal Facebook. So, and she's in all these different injector groups and different like local GC groups too. And so
Hmm.
are some of my good friends around here. And they see a lot of people posting about like where to get injectable. It's more of like forums, I feel like on
Right.
social on
And I
Facebook.
do think, Instagram is great, but it's reaching the masses. So it's like, where are you
Yeah.
really generating patients from? It's groups like that can really be just more impact. Few
Yeah.
messages, more impact.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
yeah.
And this sounds crazy too, but even Reddit, there's a lot of like
Uh,
sometimes I'll look up our practice name or look up our injectors' names and it will like a Reddit thread will come up and people
huh.
will be talking about where to get injectables and I'm like, I'd have to ask my boyfriend for help with that. I don't know. I'm like not a Reddit person at all. But I love
Hmm.
that you said you're on LinkedIn because that's a huge space too. And I
Hmm.
haven't spent the time. That's where I would really need to. I wouldn't know enough about LinkedIn to do it myself. And so I would have to rely on someone to help me with
It's so easy. So you'll just have to come back to normalcy because your brain's up here with
Yeah,
creative nature, right?
I'm
It's
thinking a
actually
little too
very
hard into it.
easy.
Okay, good.
But it's more so, it's more of the business connection. It's for, I don't know, you just never know. It's not like you're really necessarily going to get patients from it, but if you're looking to grow your company, and connections and resources, yeah, it's good. I mean, why
Yeah,
not? Just
yeah,
add another one to the mix.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I would have to, I get all my LinkedIn updates still from, different friends and old, schoolmates, classmates doing
Yeah,
different things. So,
yeah. Okay, so talk to me about TikTok. How do you determine the content that you post on TikTok versus on Instagram? Because I need
mm,
help here too, and
yeah.
everyone does.
So with TikTok, okay, there are some injectors that I have worked with and that I've also just seen their TikTok presence is incredible. And I'm like always advising them if you're able to foster and cultivate a good community on TikTok, like that's reliable and showing up for you there, and you see patients coming into your chair and they're like, yeah, I found you on TikTok. I think that's incredible. I'm like, run with that. Focus on whatever platform you're seeing the biggest kind of like community that you have, and then go from there. In terms of expanding, like one of my friends is an injector in Florida, Danny, and she has I don't know 15,000 followers maybe on TikTok, but all of her content does so well, performs really well. She's just like figured out that TikTok niche,
Hmm.
and now she's like, I'm trying to focus on growing my Instagram a little bit, and she's at like 2 or 3 thousand followers on Instagram. So it's interesting seeing her now kind of switch her content a little bit and how she kind of toggles between the two and trying to get that growth on Instagram. So with TikTok, it's kind of the Wild West. I'm not great at TikTok for some reason. None of my content never goes viral or anything. I'm like,
Oh,
heck. So, Eric and I have just grown on as we started in aesthetics, we started on Instagram, and that's just TikTok didn't even exist. So we've just our community
Just
is
going with it. Yeah.
focused on Instagram now that we, but I will say we still post on TikTok and we use it since TikTok then came out before Instagram Reels did. So we started creating videos on TikTok before Reels. So we got a little bit more used to editing
Mm.
there. So we'd use a lot of it to just, okay, we're going to edit and post something on TikTok. And then I'll kind of, what I suggest to do and what I've found to be the best is save it on from TikTok as just the video already spliced together of like, say you're doing a little bit, talking a little bit about using green screen and talking a little bit about what treatment plan you gave for this patient and what different like injection techniques you used in order to
Wait,
get
so
these.
you would recommend using the green screen on TikTok versus the green screen on Instagram?
Well, wherever you feel comfortable,
Okay.
you can save it either or. So if you feel more comfortable editing on Instagram Reels, that's fine. Like to edit it together and use those features like a green screen or talking to the camera or even an injector just talking through their injections as it's going and then showing a before and after and then saving that kind of like raw-ish video from TikTok or from Instagram Reels before you add any sound, text, anything else, and then bring it to its different platforms and add the text you want to add to TikTok and then and the sound from there if you want to add a sound or whatever else you might add just to make it kind of generate a little bit more engagement on TikTok and then do the same thing on Instagram. So you already have that like raw edited file, but then you're kind of curating it for both platforms. So
Yeah, I love that.
especially with Instagram, you need to have the font or the text needs to be like actually edited and embedded into the content. So writing through or using the closed captions or putting a title to the video to kind of give context to what the content is. And that kind of triggers the meta algorithm to push it out to people that might be already engaging with that type of content or that are engaging with similar topics and stuff like that. So it's not just going to random people where it kind of like what the text that's in your video on Instagram these days is what like the old school hashtags used to be, kind
Mm.
of giving the content its meaning and then showing it to a population from there. So actually having that content embedded or that text embedded
Title and
into
text,
the
yeah.
video makes it reach the people you want it to reach because you don't want your video just going all over the place. And if it's shown to people who are interested in like astronomy and like flowers or something and not they're not even into aesthetics at all, they're not going to engage with the content because they're going to be unsure about why they're even seeing that. So
Yeah.
if it has no home to go to, Meta will put it out to everyone and then sometimes it fails because of that. So you want to give it a little bit of a home, if that makes
Love
sense.
that. That was a great pointer. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I feel I struggle with TikTok. I feel like something like a skincare brand or something that you're using
Yeah.
would do
Well, now it's
better.
every single thing I see on TikTok too is someone selling me something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, of course, my content isn't really going viral. I don't even know how to build a community when all that anyone is doing is selling things these days. So,
Hmm.
like, in linking their TikTok shop link, whatever it is, and that's not what I'm trying to do on TikTok. So, what I see TikTok as being a great tool for us is to ask people or get people to follow us on Instagram from TikTok. So we use our other social media platforms to bring people to one social media platform if possible. And for us, that's Instagram because we, again, have cultivated our community there over the years and that's just where it's been. But I always encourage people, especially if you don't like, you have a great team that can help with doing that digital content and creating it for each specific platform and all that. But if you're smaller or solo provider and you want to be on every platform, that's amazing. I think you should be. But wherever your community starts to grow, kind of focus on using your other social platforms to push people instead of to book an appointment and come in, but actually to just follow you on that main platform that you want them to follow you on. And then
Yeah.
that gets you so much more than just a patient in your chair, but it actually gets you more loyalty. It gets you a new follower. It gets you more engagement on your Instagram. And then the loyalty comes from not just seeing a random post on Facebook, but actually engaging and following you on Instagram and following like or whatever or TikTok, whatever platform, but engaging with your life and everything else
I,
that you're doing aside from just injectables, and that kind of gives you more of a loyal patient provider relationship than anything else, I think.
Totally. And then you put all your eggs in one basket, and then one day you
And
get
then once
shadow banned.
then one day you wake up and your Instagram is gone.
Yeah. And then what do you do?
Yeah. So, okay, for this, I would say your Instagram's never gone. We can always figure out a way to get it back. They always like try to freak you out and say, your Instagram is gone forever. I don't know why they do that because it's not. So, I will say make sure that you have a verified account, whether it's your business or your personal account, because then you will have access to the chat feature with actually hopefully a human being at Meta. And if you have, so always make another account too. So if something happened to my Social by Libby account and I had Resculpt and both of us are verified, they are connected to one Meta account too. So I can go into Resculpt and message and be like, hey, I really need help. Like my other account was taken down, all of that, and they will help me through there. So as long as you have access, sometimes other people haven't had access to being Meta verified and like getting on another account, and I'm like, take your like friend's account who has a verified account or something like that and message from there.
Yeah.
Because that will get you the quickest, best reaction from Meta to get your account back. So again, always at least have access to multiple verified accounts so you can have that chat feature. And just what is it like? Stay calm, like
I know.
like
It's like you realize, oh my gosh, it just
you
gives
start
me
seeing
anxiety.
red. You're like, oh my gosh. I mean, it is a huge tool that we have that it is scary that it can be taken away like that. But for the most part, I've never seen someone's maybe once I've seen someone's page go down and them not be able to get access back. But there was a time a couple years ago when there was someone who was purposefully shutting down Instagram accounts and then trying to get people to pay him to get it back. And I was like, we don't negotiate with terrorists. We are going to figure this out. We're going to get it back. And so don't ever pay someone to get your Instagram account back, because 9 times out of 10, they're probably the one that took it down if they're asking you for money to get it back.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
And then, what happened to me today where I reposted something that must have had a trigger word in there that AI, because all of Instagram's run by AI now, AI saw it and was like, you violated community guidelines. And I was like, panic mode. I'm like, oh my gosh, Gretchen, it's okay. Like, you're going to be fine. But everything, I just panicked.
Yeah.
And you rely on it. Like, it's your lifeline. Like, what's going to happen? And now we come on here and then all of a sudden it's working again.
I know, right? Well, that's the magic of chatting with
of Libby.
Aww.
Oh, it's so good.
But
okay, so we have like talked for so long, but I wanted to ask you one other question before we go. I guess the first one is, what are you the most excited about for the next 5 years? I know you've opened and it's been a year and it's been this whirlwind of amazingness.
Yeah.
What do you envision happening with Resculpt, and what are you excited about?
I know, right? So I personally, and Erica and I probably would differ on this, but we're at different points in our life too. Obviously, she is trying for another and has a baby and a husband and all that, and I have a boyfriend and 2 dogs. So, but I'm 30 and I'm like, I want to, go to more conferences and open more practices potentially in different areas. I think that would be really cool. Either like another location here, just always having that growth mindset. You always want to look at the next thing or figure out what that might be. But and Erica definitely has that drive still for that growth as well. I mean, how can you not? It's the industry and the field is always growing and changing and evolving, and that's what makes it so fun and exciting. And but for me personally, it would definitely be working on growing my brand and getting more exposure for myself, whether it's talking about social media, marketing, branding, or even being a non-clinician co-owner of a practice, and just the benefits of how that can help, and just kind of giving people a little bit more guidance on that front, because for some, it is a little bit of less common, right, to have a non-clinician co-owner. And I think it's a little odd if someone owns a clinic solo and doesn't have any medical credentials, because I'm like, I wouldn't know. I know my limits, and there's no way I would be able to do that. But to have that my role that I play, where I'm in the clinic every single day and actually helping to maintain these patient relationships, and again, no medical, I don't do any medical conversing or anything like that. But also when it comes to the providers, giving a little bit more of that, let me kind of have this conversation with you as from a patient's point of view with a provider, because as a medical provider you're always seeing things very like medically and sometimes even like not personally enough, and I'm like, well, let me play devil's advocate for you here as like a patient role or something like that, and I can kind of bring a little bit more perspective to our providers, I think too. But it does take a unique personality in this industry and someone who does have, like, I do have a lot of experience working in this industry. I didn't just pop in and say, hey, I'm gonna try to make a quick buck and try to get into aesthetics. Like, I've worked literally every single role in this industry, and this is really the only industry that I've worked in for the most part. I did some talent management and branding and stuff like that out in LA, but I've always been in aesthetics one way or another. And so just that learning curve and just knowing, keeping up to date with everything that's going on is like, having that experience is super important for someone, especially if they're not a medical provider themselves and they're in this industry. But to bring it back to your question, ADHD aside, I would love to grow my own brand and just, again, be that voice for people, and also just help people with their own branding and marketing and strategy for their own practices, and hopefully doing more conferences and being more involved that way. And then in terms of Resculpt, also continuing to grow it from that side of things, where I'm creating a practice that I really want the providers to feel empowered and like that they're in a really great positive space, and that they can grow and have access to all the education and tools and whatever resources they need. And creating more positive experiences for providers and different practices would be ideal for me, because speaking from someone who's had some rough experiences working in different practices, like, to create a positive experience is so important. So I would love for Resculpt to also be able to grow.
I think you're in a unique position too, because I do know people that are in business that have started med spas, and looking forward and looking at what's happening with consolidation and private equity, they're now running, but it's going from provider owned to then private equity, and people kind of bark at that. But there are successful people that are business owners and have started med spas. The one hiccup is, how do you train your team? How do you train your injectors? But you, my dear, have like the best of all the worlds, because you have Erica, and she's there to be your medical director, to help train your injectors. I mean, you're truly
the
blessed.
system. We really have. And no, we are really, really lucky that, especially because Erica is so pulled all over the place in terms of the different trainings she's doing. She co-owns Aesthetic Intel with Wasim. She has Moksha that she co-owns with Haniap and Potomac as well. And in terms of bringing on more projects for her, and she's constantly also doing her own trainings and traveling and speaking and all of that. So in terms of us adding more to her plate, it was like, how do we make this something that is awesome, but it doesn't add so much more stress or anything like that. So when it comes to, and that trust that you have to have with your business partner as well, and just like knowing that we're always in communication. And because I'm honestly, like, sometimes can be more patient facing than she is if I'm in the office every single day of the week, and communicating like with our front desk and our practice manager and myself, like always communicating with patients. Like, we are the first ones on the line to see when a patient is complaining or upset or doesn't like the results, or there might be a complication or whatever's happening. And so for me to have direct access to that, and then me to be able to talk, like, I'm constantly on the phone with Erica and just having those open communications, like, things get solved so quickly.
Totally.
So
And you guys know each other so well that you're
Yeah.
not starting a relationship and as business owners.
And I know how she would handle things, and she knows
Right.
how I would handle things. And so just that like synergistic relationship, where we're like, it's a no-brainer to own a company together where we can also work on our individual brands and help injectors grow their brands, and just bring it all together with
Just do it all.
our community. So
Well, you say conferences, and I mean, I know you know about Face It Live that we're doing in October, and we have a business section of it. I can talk to you about the dates. It's October 24th through 26th, and the business dinner's on the Friday, and we have gain business there, and we're incorporating a couple other people. But I don't know if you'd want to talk about social media and stuff. We can discuss it.
that would be amazing.
Really good.
I want to do more anything, especially with you guys. I love Massachusetts. I love Boston area. I'm from Vermont, my family, so we're like,
Oh,
oh,
you're from Vermont? Where in Vermont?
Burlington.
Oh, no way. I lived there for a year and a half. I went to UVM for my
Really?
fellowship. Yeah.
No
I
way.
lived right on William Street. It's like a stone's throw from the hospital, like right in between Church Street and the hospital.
Yeah, I know William Street. That's just so cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
well,
loved it. I need to go back, but it's just a little too far for a
little
weekend.
close.
It's like
Yeah,
3.5
exactly.
hours. I'm like,
Okay.
ah.
Well, I grew up going to Boston a lot, but I also grew up coming down to DC, and my this is also another thing we didn't even get into because I should have shared more about my background. But my
Episode 2.
my family is very in politics, and that's kind of why I'm in DC. But then
Okay.
I just happened to get into aesthetics, and um, also my family, they're all like lawyers and work in the legal field. So whenever people are like, "Oh, aren't you worried about this or worried about that?" And I think one thing is people get worried, especially when you're medical providers, like from like, oh, lawyers are scary, right? And I'm always like, well, I have, my entire family, they're all lawyers. And so we have those in our back pocket. And you
Yeah.
don't, the access to talking to an attorney without feeling like you are going to get charged up the wazoo. And two, I have them do free work for us all the time. So I'm like,
You're saving lots of money.
yeah,
Lots and
so
lots of money.
so that is like that takes a huge stress off in that I've always been like legal minded, so I always read through contracts, I always make sure consents are signed and good to go. Like that is just where my
So
mind
good.
has always come from too. And so for Erica's like not that legal type at all. So we play off each other well in that front too. So that's another aspect of
That's
myself that
awesome.
that helps me run my business. But
My
um
mom's a lawyer, but she does estate planning, so I'm not quite sure how that would help me
yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
But
true. My mom, if my mom was a divorce attorney for a long time, she did a lot of family law, but she's
oh
still
wow.
like, I'll bother her with questions all the time. But my brother, stepdad, cousin, they're all in corporate law, so it's a little
Wow.
bit, yeah,
It's
they
good to
help.
know. I'll reach out if I need
Yeah,
you.
and employment stuff like that too. So,
Wow. It's a lot.
yeah, but obviously I'm like if needed help like officially I would need, some actual probably attorneys. But when it comes to a lot of opportunities that were presented and stuff like you said, from private equity and like different groups or wanting X, Y, and Z, I'm like my mom I'm like I would not even have these conversations right now as a younger person, like where I don't have a lot of financial freedom sometimes
Yeah.
myself because I'm still newer in the
Well, yeah,
game.
and you're
But
putting all your money back into the
yeah,
company.
so I'm like, I
Good.
couldn't even have these conversations if I had to like get in with a lawyer where it's like 20K to have like them help me with something. So I'm lucky in that aspect, but yeah, and that has helped too. So
Yeah.
honestly, pro tip, either marry a lawyer, marry a lawyer or an accountant or something like that. I feel like those are two big things where you could really
That's yeah.
get help if you're getting
I don't
into a
know how it
specific
would be to
field.
be married to an accountant. I'm not sure.
That's Thomas. That's Erica's husband. He does like literally all of our accounting, and I
God bless his soul.
literally, I'm like, I have no. Eric and I look at numbers, and I'm like, Thomas, I don't. I'm so sorry. Eric and I are like, we are so sorry.
But that's why it works.
Yeah.
Well, this was so fun, and we definitely could talk forever. We can
I
do another
know.
episode.
I'm sorry. I hope I had a rhyme and rhythm to everything that I was talking about because sometimes I just being in marketing and social media, your brain goes all over the place. I
It
don't
was
know.
perfect. We touched
Okay,
on
good.
all the things. Tell
Yay.
everyone where they can find you. What's your Instagram?
My Instagram is social by Libby. And I also have a Patreon that you can find through there too, which is just my name, Libby Dysart. And but if you message me on Instagram, I'll get back to you if you have any questions or you want to work together or anything like that. So
Love
yeah,
that. Well, thank you all for listening.
bye.